The red dust of the battlefield clung to everything. Cale's boots sank into the uneven soil, and the air smelled of smoke and burning metal. The once proud outpost now lay in ruins, a collection of broken towers, crumpled vehicles, and scattered debris. Silence dominated the landscape, broken only by the occasional distant rumble of collapsing structures. Cale had seen many war zones, but this one carried a weight he could feel in his bones. Something was wrong, more than the obvious destruction. He moved cautiously among the wreckage, scanning for signs of survivors or threats. His hand rested on the grip of his rifle, eyes sharp, muscles tensed. He had trained for moments like this, but training never removed the sting of solitude, the cold realization that life could end at any second. A soft sound reached him, almost like a whisper carried on the wind. Cale froze. It was a voice, but alien, high, trembling, almost melodic. He followed the sound, moving quietly, carefully. Behind a crumpled wall of metal, he saw her. She was unlike anything he had seen before. Her skin had a subtle shimmer, as if the light itself danced across it. Her eyes were large and dark, reflecting both fear and intelligence. She was small, but her presence carried a strange power, a quiet dignity that did not belong to someone in such a state of vulnerability. She pressed herself against the debris, her hands trembling. "Spare me," she whispered softly, her voice barely audible. "I will belong to you." The words were strange, loaded with meaning he did not yet fully understand. He did not immediately lower his weapon. Experience had taught him caution. Not every being who spoke of submission was honest, especially in times of war. "What happened here?" he asked, keeping his voice steady. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, though her movements were shaky. "No, not yet. But they are coming. My people, they will kill me if they find me." Cale frowned.
"Your people? You mean the ones fighting here?" She nodded, her dark eyes wide.
"Yes, I disobeyed."
"I refuse to follow orders. They cannot allow that. They will not stop." Cale's mind raced. Disobedience? That could mean many things. In human terms, it could be political, it could be moral, it could even be survival. But the fear in her eyes was real, undeniable. That alone stirred something inside him, an instinct to protect, to act. He stepped closer, carefully, not raising his weapon unnecessarily. "You need to move. Now." "Can you walk?" She hesitated. I can try." Cale extended his hand, not touching her yet, just offering support. Her hand hovered near his, trembling. Then she grasped it. It was light, fragile, yet her grip was firm, almost pleading. Together they navigated through the rubble, moving toward the edge of the outpost. The sky was a deep crimson, streaked with black clouds. Fires burned in scattered areas, sending twisted plumes of smoke into the air. The ground beneath them trembled occasionally, as if the planet itself was angry at the chaos humans and aliens had brought upon it. Cale's senses were on high alert. Every shadow, every movement could mean danger. "You said your people are after you?" Cale asked as they moved. "What did you do?" I questioned," she replied quietly. "I refused an order that would have destroyed innocent lives. They cannot forgive that." This was familiar. He had fought in wars where soldiers obeyed orders blindly, and those who refused were punished. Now he faced the same principle across the stars. The human instinct to protect life had bonded him, silently, with this alien stranger. "Then we need to get somewhere safe," he said. "Somewhere they cannot reach us." She nodded, trusting him in a way that surprised him. It was rare to see such trust, especially from a being whose language, culture, and motives he barely understood. Yet, in her eyes, he saw hope, fragile, but real. They moved quickly, though carefully, toward a wrecked transport vehicle half buried in the dust. Hale had learned to make do with whatever resources were available, and he hoped this could serve as a temporary shelter. As they approached, the faint hum of engines startled them both. Cale signaled for her to hide behind a stack of metal crates. He raised his rifle, scanning the horizon. Shadows moved, fast, purposeful, organized. These were the hunters. Kyle recognized their method immediately. They were skilled, trained, and deadly. The alien woman's breathing grew faster. She clutched his sleeve. They will kill us both, she whispered, fear sharp in her voice. Hale placed a hand on her shoulder, steadying her. Not if we act smart, he said. We stay quiet, we move fast, and we don't let them corner us. She looked at him, eyes wide, searching his face for assurance. He did not flinch. He would not flinch. That was human instinct, human courage, the ability to stand firm when the odds seemed impossible. Cale waited for the hunters to pass, then led her to the transport. The vehicle was damaged, but he could see the cockpit controls flickering with residual energy. He examined it quickly, assessing the chance they had. It's going to be risky, he said, but it might fly. If not, we run on foot. The alien woman watched him, her expression a mixture of fear and awe. You are different, she said softly. Most would have ignored me. Most would have left me to die. Kyle shrugged, a faint smile crossing his face despite the tension. Humans tend to do that sometimes, he said, but not all of us. Not always. With careful movements, he powered the vehicle enough to start the engines. Sparks flew and smoke hissed from the damaged circuits. The alien woman helped where she could, her hands glowing faintly as she manipulated the controls with a precision Cale could not match. But energy flickered, and the engine roared to life. Kyle guided the transport slowly away from the wreckage. The hunters had noticed the movement, and Cale could see their silhouettes darting across the distance, weapons raised, prepared to strike. His heart pounded, but he kept his focus sharp. They entered the open terrain, weaving between jagged rock formations. The alien woman sat beside him, her hands still glowing softly as she assisted with the navigation. Cale stole a glance at her. She was terrified, yet determined. Her bravery was different from human courage. It was quiet, unyielding, shaped by fear but strengthened by principle. "Why do you help me?" she asked suddenly, voice barely above the hum of the engines. Cale's hands tightened on the controls. "Because it's the right thing," he said simply. "Because I've learned that doing the right thing, it matters, even if it's dangerous. Especially if it's dangerous." She considered his words, her eyes reflecting the shifting colors of the alien sky. I do not understand your people," she admitted. "Your strength, it is not just your weapons, it is your choice to act." Kyle nodded. "Exactly." They moved in silence for a while, the only sound the low rumble of the transport and the distant shouts of the hunters. Cale plotted their course toward a canyon system he remembered from old maps, a place where the narrow passages and towering cliffs could slow down anyone chasing them. It was risky, but their only chance. As the canyon approached, the alien woman leaned closer. "Cale, will they catch us?" He glanced at her, eyes steady, voice firm. "Not if we don't let them. Stay calm, follow my lead, and trust me." Her fingers tightened around his arm in a fleeting gesture of trust. I will belong to you," she whispered again, not in the sense of ownership, but in surrender to his protection, to the human's ability to keep her alive. Cale's heart tightened at the weight of her words. He did not answer. Words were useless now. Actions mattered. He steered the transport into the canyon, hugging the walls, dodging falling debris, and narrowly avoiding boulders. The hunters followed, persistent, but the narrow passages slowed them. Cale felt the rush of adrenaline, the clarity of focus that came only in life-or-death situations. Every instinct, every training exercise, every decision mattered. He could not fail. Not now. Not with her life in his hands. By the time night fell, they had put a significant distance between themselves and the hunters. The canyon walls offered them shadows and cover. Cale found a narrow crevice and parked the transport. The engines hissed and died, leaving them in quiet darkness. The alien woman turned to him, eyes wide with a mix of relief and lingering fear. "You saved me," she said softly. Cale shook his head. "We saved each other. That's what survival means. That's what being human means." She studied him, as if trying to understand a mystery she had never encountered before. I will trust you," she said finally, "because you choose to act, even when the world does not care." Cale allowed himself a small nod. The night was cold, the danger far from over, but for the first time in many hours, there was a moment of calm. They were alive. They were together, and that mattered. As the stars glittered above the jagged canyon walls, Cale knew the real journey was only beginning. Protecting her would be more than surviving the hunters. It would be a test of humanity itself, of courage, choice, and the bonds forged in the fire of crisis. And Cale was ready. The alien woman rested against the transport, exhausted, yet still watchful. "Thank you," she whispered again, her voice barely audible, carried on the cold wind. Cale only nodded, eyes on the horizon, prepared for whatever came next. Because in this universe, survival was only part of the story. The rest, the choices, the courage, the humanity, was what truly mattered, and he would not fail. The first light of dawn broke over the jagged canyon walls, painting the rocky landscape in shades of gold and crimson. Cale sat behind the transport controls, his eyes scanning the horizon. The alien woman, whose name he still did not know, watched him quietly, her dark eyes reflecting both apprehension and curiosity. They had survived the night, but Cale knew this was only the beginning. The hunters would not stop until they had retrieved her, and their path forward was uncertain. "You need rest," Cale said finally, breaking the silence. "We can take turns. I'll keep watch while you sleep." She shook her head. "I cannot sleep. Not yet. They are close. I can feel it." Cale frowned, studying her closely. There was a subtle energy about her, a pulse that seemed to resonate with the planet itself. She was not human, yet her instincts were sharp, her awareness almost preternatural. That awareness had saved them yesterday, and it would save them again. "All right," he said finally. "Stay alert, but we need to move. The longer we stay here, the more likely they are to find us." The alien woman nodded, her expression serious. She slid into the co-pilot seat and began manipulating the controls again. Her hands glowed faintly, delicate movements shifting energy fields within the transport. Cale had no idea how she did it, but it worked. The engines hummed back to life, stronger than before. As they lifted from the canyon floor, Cale plotted a course toward a nearby planet known from old navigation charts. It was a mining world, largely abandoned, with complex cave systems that could provide temporary shelter. The journey would be dangerous. The planet's atmosphere was thick with electrical storms, and the alien hunters were fast and relentless, but it was the best chance they had. The alien woman leaned close, her voice barely above the hum of the engines.
"They will not give up. They never give up. They, Emmet, AY.
You must be ready for anything." Hayal's jaw tightened. "I know, I've faced worse than hunters before, but I've never faced them chasing someone like you." "Their technology, it's different. More advanced than what I've seen." She nodded slowly, her dark eyes meeting his. "It is not just technology. They think differently. They plan differently. They value obedience above life, above all else. That is why I am running." The confession hung in the air between them. Kale realized that this was more than survival. It was a test of will, of courage, and of trust. He had fought wars, he had seen countless lives lost, yet the weight of responsibility for another being's life pressed down on him in a way he had never known. "Then we adapt," he said finally. "We use our heads, our skills, and we make choices they cannot predict." She studied him, her eyes reflecting a mixture of fear and awe. "You are human?" she asked softly. "You could destroy me with your weapons, and yet you protect me. Why?" Kyle's hands tightened on the controls. "Because it is the right thing to do," he said simply. "Because life matters. Because we choose to act, even when the odds are against us." Her fingers brushed lightly against the console, sending a soft pulse of energy through it. "Your people, you are different. You do not obey blindly. You think. You choose. That is rare." Kale allowed a small nod. "It should not be rare, but it is. And that's why I cannot fail. Not now. Not with you." The transport shuddered as it entered the thick clouds of the planet's atmosphere. Lightning cracked across the sky, illuminating the interior with brief flashes of blue and white. Kale adjusted the controls, navigating through turbulent winds, the craft groaning under the strain. The alien woman leaned forward, guiding the energy fields around them, stabilizing the engines. "You are skilled," Kale said, his voice tight with concentration. "How do you do that?" "It is part of me. My species can manipulate energy in subtle ways, not enough to destroy, but enough to influence machines, to heal, to protect. But I am still learning, and I am tired." Kale glanced at her, recognizing the exhaustion in her eyes.
"Then let's get you somewhere safe. We'll rest there."
"Then we figure out the next move." Hours passed as they fought their way through storms and turbulence. The transport shuddered with every strike of lightning, every gust of wind. Yet Kale's focus never wavered. He guided them with precision, drawing on every skill he had learned from years of training and experience. The alien woman assisted where she could, her small hands glowing faintly, steadying the craft, her presence a quiet reassurance. Finally, the planet's surface emerged from the clouds below, a desolate landscape of jagged rock formations and deep valleys. Kale maneuvered the transport toward a cave system he had spotted on the charts, landing carefully near the entrance. The engines powered down, leaving them in a tense silence broken only by the faint hum of residual energy. Kyle jumped down first, scanning the area. The cave entrance yawned before them, dark and foreboding, yet offering shelter. "This will do for now," he said. "We rest here. Then we plan." The alien woman followed, moving gracefully despite her exhaustion. She looked around the cave, her eyes wide with appreciation and relief. "It is safe," she whispered. "For now." Kale nodded, setting up a small perimeter with sensors salvaged from the transport. "We'll be safe for a few hours at least. But we cannot stay too long. They will track us eventually." She knelt beside him, studying the sensors with a mixture of curiosity and understanding. "Your species, you are clever. You think ahead. You plan." Kyle allowed a small smile. "We have to, or we die." As night fell, the cave grew cold. Kale started a small fire, using portable energy cells to generate warmth. The alien woman watched, her hands folded, as if contemplating something far beyond the fire's glow. "You saved me," she said quietly. "Not just from them, but from myself. I did not know I could trust anyone. Not like this." Al looked at her, his expression calm but serious. "Trust is a choice," he said. "And I choose to earn it every day? That is what makes a difference." She nodded slowly, her dark eyes reflecting both gratitude and wonder. Then I will follow you, she said softly, because you have shown me that life is worth protecting. That choice matters. That courage exists, even when all seems lost. Kale studied her carefully. She was not just pleading for survival anymore. She was making a conscious choice, aligning herself with humanity's values. That realization stirred something inside him, a mixture of pride and responsibility. Hours passed, the fire crackling softly. Kale took first watch, scanning the cave entrance, alert to every sound, every shadow. The alien woman rested but remained vigilant, her energy faintly glowing, a quiet sign of readiness. Together they formed an unspoken alliance, their strengths complementing each other. In the dead of night, Kale noticed movement at the cave's edge, shadows flitting just beyond the light. The hunters had found signs of their presence. His heart tightened, but his resolve did not falter. He whispered to the alien woman, "They are close. Get ready." Her dark eyes met his, unwavering. "I am ready," she said softly, "for whatever comes." It was heavy, but it fueled him. He knew the fight ahead would not just test their physical abilities, but their minds, their courage, and their humanity. The hunters approached silently, their movements precise, trained, relentless. Kale prepared, knowing that every decision could mean life or death. The alien woman positioned herself beside him, her subtle energy ready to assist, ready to protect, ready to act. As the first shadow entered the cave, Kale felt the familiar rush of adrenaline. His human instincts, honed over years of training, guided him. Every choice, every move, mattered, and he would not fail. Not now, not ever, because in this universe, survival was only part of the story. The rest, the courage, the trust, the bond between beings, human or otherwise, was what truly mattered. And Kale was determined to show that humanity's strength was more than muscle or weaponry. It was intelligence, compassion, and choice. The alien woman glanced at him one last time before the encounter began. I belong to you," she whispered, her voice steady now, not in fear, but in recognition of his protection, his leadership, and his unwavering courage. Kale's eyes met hers, a silent promise passing between them. They would survive. And nothing, not even the most relentless hunters in the galaxy, could break that bond. The alien sky was a swirl of violet and indigo as Kale and the alien woman moved cautiously through the rocky landscape. The cave had offered temporary shelter, but it was not safe to linger. Kale knew that the hunters would not rest, and every moment they remained in one place increased the risk of being discovered. The alien woman walked beside him, alert, her small hands glowing faintly as she adjusted the sensors in the portable device he carried. "We must keep moving," Kale said quietly. "If they track us here, there will be no escape. We need terrain that can slow them down. Something natural, unpredictable." She nodded, her dark eyes scanning the horizon. "There is a canyon system, further south. It is complex, winding. They will have trouble navigating it quickly. It may give us the advantage." Kale studied the landscape through his binoculars. The canyon was a jagged scar on the planet's surface, filled with sharp cliffs, deep ravines, and scattered boulders. It was treacherous, yes, but it offered potential cover. He made a decision. "That's where we're going. Stay close, stay quiet, and follow my lead." They began the journey moving as swiftly as the rocky terrain allowed. The alien woman kept close, her glowing hands occasionally touching the sensors, shifting subtle energy fields to mask their presence. Kale marveled at her abilities. She was not just helping, she was protecting them. He had encountered allies before, human and alien, but none who combined intelligence, instinct, and courage in the way she did. Hours passed. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the jagged ground. The canyon entrance loomed ahead, dark and foreboding. Kale guided them carefully into the maze of cliffs, using his knowledge of terrain and strategy to avoid exposed paths. The alien woman followed his movements silently, her energy pulsing softly in sync with his own focus. Suddenly, a faint sound reached them, a soft vibration in the rock beneath their feet. Kale froze, raising a hand to halt her. The alien woman's eyes widened. She understood immediately. The hunters were close. "They are near," she whispered. "We must move faster, but cautiously." Kale nodded. "Follow me." He led them along a narrow ledge, the cliffs rising sharply on one side, a steep drop on the other. Every step required precision. One misstep could send them plummeting into the ravine below. Yet Kale's focus never wavered. This was what he did best: survival, strategy, adaptation. As they progressed, the alien woman spoke softly, her voice carrying a note of curiosity mixed with admiration. "Your species. You survive through thinking, not just strength. You analyze, you predict, you act. That is why you are alive. That is why you can protect me." Kale allowed himself a small smile, though his eyes never left the path ahead. Survival is about more than muscle. It is about choice. Every decision matters. Every action counts. That is humanity's strength. And right now, it is what will keep us alive. They continued through the twisting canyon passages, the shadows growing longer, the air cooler. The alien woman occasionally manipulated her energy fields, creating faint disturbances in the environment that masked their heat signatures and footprints. Kale had never seen anything like it. Her abilities were subtle, precise, yet effective. After what felt like hours, they reached a narrow alcove that offered temporary concealment. Kale crouched, scanning the surroundings. The alien woman mirrored his movements, alert but calm. "They will catch up," she said quietly.
"They are relentless. Do you know why?" Kale shook his head.
No. But it doesn't matter. All that matters is that we stay alive, that we make it through this. Fear is useful only if it sharpens your focus, not paralyzes you." She nodded, considering his words. "Your people. You are different. You do not obey blindly. You choose. That is
rare. That is why I follow you."
Kale studied her closely. Her trust was not given lightly. She had faced death, betrayal, and relentless pursuit, yet she had chosen to align herself with him, a human. That bond, fragile yet powerful, was now their greatest strength. Suddenly, a sound echoed through the canyon, a faint scraping, like metal against stone. Kale's instincts screamed at him. The hunters had found signs of their passage. He motioned for the alien woman to stay low. "They are coming," he whispered.
"We need to prepare. Use your energy."
"Create disturbances, anything that will confuse them. I'll cover our path." She nodded, her hands glowing softly as she manipulated the energy fields around them. Rocks shifted subtly. Shadows flickered, and faint vibrations misled the sensors. Kale set small traps along the path. Simple, human ingenuity. Tripwires, falling rocks, and reflective surfaces to misdirect light sensors. As the hunters approached, Kale felt the rush of adrenaline. Every skill, every experience, every instinct mattered now. He was human, yes, but that humanity was more than physical strength. It was courage, strategy, adaptability, and choice. And he would not fail. The hunters entered the canyon cautiously, their movements precise, calculated. Kale observed them through a narrow opening, noting their formation, their speed, their methodical approach. He adjusted his traps, nudging rocks into precarious positions. The alien woman's energy field shimmered subtly, masking their presence. Hours passed in tense silence. The hunters were skilled, but the canyon's complexity worked in Kale's favor. Narrow passages slowed their advance. Sudden drops and sharp turns created confusion. Kale guided the alien woman through the maze, avoiding direct confrontation while still keeping their pursuers at bay. At one point, the hunters split, attempting to flank them. Kale paused at a narrow bridge of rock, the alien woman beside him. He looked at her, eyes meeting hers. "This is dangerous," he said. "We may have to fight if they get too close. Are you ready?" She nodded, her hands glowing with controlled energy. "I am ready. For whatever comes, I trust you, Kale." "That is enough for me." Kyle's heart tightened. Her trust was a gift, and he would honor it. He motioned for her to stay behind him as he stepped onto the bridge, scanning for movement. The hunters were close now, their shapes faint in the dim light of the canyon. With a subtle signal from Kale, the alien woman manipulated the energy around them. A faint pulse disrupted the ground beneath the hunters' feet, causing loose rocks to tumble and alerting them to a false path. Confusion spread among the hunters, giving Kale and the alien woman the precious seconds they needed to advance. They moved quickly, navigating the treacherous terrain with precision. The canyon's twists and turns worked to their advantage, separating the hunters and buying them more distance. Kale's muscles burned, his senses strained, but his focus never wavered. Every step, every decision mattered. By the time night fell again, they had reached a small plateau overlooking a valley. The alien woman collapsed briefly, exhausted, but her eyes remained alert. Kale sat beside her, sharing the last of their water and rationed food. "You are stronger than you realize," she said softly, her voice steady despite fatigue. "Not just in body, but in mind. You think, you act, you survive. That is why I follow you." Kyle shook his head, smiling faintly. "It is not strength alone that matters. It is choice, courage, compassion. Humanity is more than survival. It is the decisions we make, the risks we take to protect life. That is what makes the difference." She studied him closely, her dark eyes reflecting the starlight. "I have never met another like you. I have seen many warriors, many humans, but none like you. You are different. That is why I will stay with you, no matter what comes." Kale felt a surge of determination. They had survived the hunters so far, but the journey was far from over. The alien woman's life depended on him, and now more than ever, he understood the weight of that responsibility. Survival was not enough. They needed strategy, trust, and courage to continue. As they rested on the plateau, Kale kept watch, scanning the horizon for any signs of movement. He would be ready. The alien woman, sensing his resolve, leaned slightly against him, a gesture of trust and partnership. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything, for protecting me, for choosing to act, for being human." Kale nodded, eyes on the horizon. "We protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is what it means to be human. That is what it means to survive and to honor life. And I will not fail you. Not now, not ever." The stars above flickered against the alien sky, silent witnesses to their struggle, their bond, and their determination. Together they would face whatever came next, relying on skill, strategy, courage, and the unbreakable bond forged in the fire of survival. The alien woman rested, her small hands glowing faintly as she remained alert, while Kale scanned the valley below, every sense on high alert. The hunters were patient, relentless, but humanity's strength, intelligence, courage, and choice was something they could not anticipate, something they could not match, and KL would prove it. The alien sky was dark, streaked with violet clouds that shimmered with distant lightning. Kale and the alien woman stood on the edge of the plateau, overlooking the valley below. The hunters had regrouped, their silhouettes moving silently through the terrain. Kale could see the glint of their advanced weapons, precise and deadly. He crouched low, studying their formation. Every decision he made now could mean life or death, not just for him, but for her. "Are you ready?" he asked, glancing at the alien woman. She nodded, her dark eyes steady. Her energy pulsed softly, a subtle glow that spread from her hands to the air around them. "I am ready. Whatever comes, I trust you." He had survived countless missions, faced enemies far stronger than himself, but this was different. This was not just about strength or weapons. It was strategy, cunning, and the unbreakable bond that had formed between them. Humanity's power was not in brute force. It was in intelligence, courage, and choice. He surveyed the valley below. There were boulders and narrow paths, uneven ground, and a river that cut through the center. The terrain could be used to their advantage, but only if they acted carefully. Kyle motioned for the alien woman to follow him down a hidden path, a route that would place them above the hunter's approach without being seen. As they descended, Hale set small traps along the way. Rocks balanced to fall at the right moment, reflective surfaces to mislead sensors, and subtle energy pulses that the alien woman amplified. She worked quietly beside him, her focus sharp, her energy precise. Hale realized that without her, this plan would be impossible. Together they were stronger than any force pursuing them. The hunters reached the base of the plateau. Cale could hear their movements, the faint hiss of their weapons charging. He crouched behind a rock, whispering instructions to the alien woman. "When I give the signal, use your energy. Distract them, disorient them. Then we move fast, together." She nodded, her hands glowing brighter. "I understand." His mind raced through every possible scenario, every movement the hunters might make. He positioned himself strategically, using the terrain to cover their approach. The hunters advanced carefully, confident in their numbers and technology, but unaware of the traps and illusions Cale had set. The first hunter stepped into a false path Cale had created. A rock tumbled from above, narrowly missing him, but enough to cause confusion. Cale moved silently, signaling the alien woman. She extended her hands, releasing a pulse of energy that shifted shadows and created temporary illusions. The hunters faltered, disoriented by the sudden changes in terrain and light. Cale seized the moment. He moved swiftly, striking the nearest hunter with precise blows that incapacitated him without lethal force. The alien woman mirrored his actions, using her energy to disable their weapons and create barriers that slowed their advance. Together, they were a coordinated force, each complementing the other's strengths. The hunters regrouped, realizing their advantage was slipping. Cale anticipated their tactics, adjusting his traps, and guiding the alien woman through the canyon passages. The narrow paths worked in their favor, funneling the hunters into areas where the traps could be most effective. Hours passed in a tense game of strategy and survival. Cale and the alien woman moved with precision, every step calculated, every action deliberate. The hunters were relentless, but Cale's human ingenuity and her alien abilities created a combination they could not predict. Finally, they reached a narrow canyon where the hunters had little room to maneuver. Cale positioned himself and the alien woman at a high point, overlooking the path below. The hunters approached cautiously, their weapons ready. Cale took a deep breath, focusing on the timing. "Now," he whispered. The alien woman released a controlled pulse of energy that sent rocks tumbling down the slope, forcing the hunters to scatter. Cale moved with lightning speed, incapacitating the nearest hunter with a precise strike that left him immobilized but unharmed. The alien woman followed, using her energy to disable the remaining weapons and create barriers that trapped the hunters. One by one, the hunters fell into Cale's carefully laid plan, unable to counter the combined force of human strategy and alien abilities. The canyon echoed with the sound of rocks shifting and weapons clattering. the hunter's precision rendered useless by Kale's foresight and the alien woman's power. When the last hunter was incapacitated, Kale and the alien woman stood atop the canyon, breathing heavily but victorious. The alien woman looked at him, her dark eyes filled with admiration and relief. You saved me, not just from them, but from myself. I feared I would never find someone like you. Kale shook his head, his expression serious. It is not just about saving. It is about choice, courage, and trust. Humanity's strength is not in weapons or numbers. It is in decisions, in protecting what matters, even when the odds are against us. That is why we survived. She stepped closer, her hands still glowing softly. I belong to you, she whispered again. But this time the words carried a different weight. Not fear, but respect and admiration for the human who had protected her with courage, intelligence, and honor. Kale allowed himself a faint smile. And I will protect you, he said. Not because you belong to me, but because it is the right thing to do. That is what humans do. That is what makes us strong. They stood together, looking over the canyon, the alien sky illuminated by distant lightning. The hunt was over, at least for now, but the bond between them had been forged in fire, danger, and trust. Kale realized that this was more than survival. It was the essence of humanity. Courage, morality, and choice could triumph even in the most hostile universe. The alien woman glanced at him, her dark eyes reflecting the starlight. I have never met another like you. I will follow you, not because I must, but because I choose to. Because you have shown me what it means to survive and to live. Kale nodded, feeling the weight of her trust. Then we continue, he said. Together. The universe is vast, and there will be more challenges, more dangers. But as long as we trust each other and act with purpose, nothing can break us. They began to move down from the canyon, heading toward the next stage of their journey. The alien woman's energy pulsed softly, harmonizing with Kale's presence, creating a synergy that was both protective and empowering. Together they navigated the rough terrain, each step calculated, each choice deliberate. As they traveled, Kale reflected on what had brought them here. It was not just skill or luck. It was human morality, compassion, and the courage to act when it mattered most. The alien woman had chosen to trust him, and he had honored that choice with every decision, every movement, every calculated risk. That was the essence of HFY. Humans could triumph not just through power, but through intellect, morality, and empathy. The stars above glimmered as they moved across the alien landscape, silent witnesses to their struggle and their bond. Kale knew that challenges would come again, but he also knew that together they could face anything. Humanity's strength was more than physical. It was choice, courage, and the willingness to act when it mattered most. Hours later, they reached a hidden valley, sheltered from the harsh storms and treacherous terrain. Kale set up a temporary camp, using his skills to create secure barriers and hiding spots. The alien woman rested, her glowing energy dimmed slightly as she allowed herself a moment of reprieve. Kyle watched her, noting the subtle pulse of life and strength she carried. We survived today, he said quietly. Not because of luck, but because of decisions, because of courage, because of trust. That is what makes us strong. She looked at him, her dark eyes reflecting both admiration and gratitude.
You are human, she said softly, and that is why you are extraordinary.
You saved me, not because it was easy, but because it was right. I will never forget this. Kyle nodded, understanding the weight of her words. The journey was far from over, but the bond between them was unbreakable. They had faced impossible odds, survived relentless hunters, and forged a connection that transcended species, language, and fear. As the alien sky shifted to the deep black of night, Kale and the alien woman sat together, silent but connected. The stars above were vast and endless, But for the first time in a long time, Hale felt hope. Survival was not just about escaping danger. It was about the choices made in the face of it, the courage to act, and the bonds formed along the way. The alien woman reached out, her hand resting lightly on his. "I trust you," she whispered, "because you have shown me what it means to be human. Brave, true, caring. I belong to you, not because I fear, but because I choose to." Kale looked at her, a small smile crossing his face. "And I will protect you," he said. "Because that is what humans do. Because that is what is right. Because we are strong together." The wind rustled through the valley, carrying the scent of alien flora and distant storms. Kale knew there would be more battles, more challenges, and more decisions to make. But he also knew that as long as he acted with courage, intelligence, and morality, nothing could defeat them. Not the hunters, not the universe, not even fate itself. Together, they sat beneath the alien stars, survivors of impossible odds, bonded by trust and courage. Humanity had proven itself again, not through force, but through intellect, compassion, and choice. And in that moment, Kale understood that true strength was not measured by weapons or numbers, but by the heart, the mind, and the courage to act when it mattered most. And so, they began the next chapter of their journey, ready to face whatever the galaxy could throw at them. United, unbroken, and unstoppable.